So just wanted to do a little update on the ARMA Conference, just so we could talk about what we learned and some of the things that were happening there. But really, I want to talk about three things that I personally learned by going to the ARMA Conference. But before I jump into that, I just want to say well done ARMA, because that was a good event. I thought there's some really cool people there. It was definitely worth going to. I had my doubts, and I don't mean that being horrible. I'm just being honest. I do find sometimes going to these events boring and not that exciting, and the format of them, it leans to that, so it's hard to sit down for that long and engage, but I actually found it really, really interesting, and yeah, so I have to give credit where credit's due. I'm gonna put on a really good event, so thank you very much. But the three things, like I say, that I think I learned is the first thing was about what are the government doing in terms of leasehold, and their in terms of the working group, in terms of their involvement in the sector, and I've got to say, one of the things I learnt was about the property agents working group that has been set up and ARMA has been excluded from, which I quite frankly find disgusting. If you look at who's on the panel and who's in that group, it makes absolutely no sense that ARMA aren't included. So I was quite surprised to hear that, despite all the differences amongst maybe some people in the group. Jim Fitzpatrick came, really mega. I mean, I'll be honest, I left feeling like, what a typical politician. He was meant to come and debate with a barrister about some of the things in terms of common hold reform, and debate some of those things with him, and he just came and was like, no, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to change the agenda, I'm going to ramble for 10 minutes, and spoke really fast, hardly could understand him because he spoke so fast, spoke, in my opinion, a lot of crap, and then was like, I'm going, didn't take any questions, no credibility, it wasn't worth coming. And if you're going to come to any event and do that, just don't bother next time, waste of time. I'm more annoyed and incensed that he did that. And disappointing given his involvement in all of these things. So here's a man who's maybe got quite a lot of influence over the direction of travel in terms of leasehold reform, and to me that just showed his attitude towards the industry and maybe towards agents, and I don't understand that. He's meant to be wanting to work with the industry to fit, to help be part of the solution. Behaving like that, to me, just showed no class, and I was left disappointed. So I hope it was an emergency, because as an agent, I just think that was poor showing. But what was really disappointing was overall was all the other government officials who came. It's like they don't get that they have to give consideration to lots of different things. So it's like, we've only been asked to look at this, we've only been asked to look at that, so therefore we can't consider other things. So anytime anyone presents something that they should be giving consideration to, they're sort of saying, oh, well, we've not been asked, so they're not giving consideration to it. It makes it's silly, like peppercorn ground rent. Deborah Yudof challenged it and said, well, she's got clients that the investors wouldn't be interested in the schemes if they knew they weren't going to manage. If day one they lost management. And all that we heard was, oh, well, we've not been asked to look into that, so we're not going to. So again, what's annoying me about all of these government, or these ministers, or these people involved in these groups or these processes, is that they're not giving the full balance, or so we say, full consideration to all the different strands of the problem. And that's what's frustrating. As an agent, because we see, and not just as an agent like Deborah did, she sees for her clients. There's no builders. Are they talking to the builders? I don't know. All I know is that it doesn't feel like they're giving enough consideration to all things. Rather, that the sensationalising of certain aspects of the problem is given. Oh, someone hasn't got a mortgage, or someone's. Anyway, I don't have a rant about that. I want to get back to the three things I learned. So the first thing I learned was that the government, in my mind, are going down a dangerous path, and I think people in the industry need to do something about it, and they need to sort of make their voices heard a bit more, whether that's through their local MPs or the housing minister. And do something, because otherwise, they're going to have as it stands, I can only see this being a negative impact on the industry. So that's one of the things I learned. The second thing was I suppose, there was a few things, but the second thing, it was about tech. Tech in industry, and prop tech, I suppose, is always going to be disruptive in any sector, and it always will be. So I think that's something that I massively learned in terms of, like, something as an agent you need to really be thinking ahead and looking to the future for your business, because otherwise you might just get left behind. Unrelated, but Ocado have this fascinating sorting systems, all done by machine, so no longer do people sort the groceries, and they've completely revolutionised that operation, and I know we're not sorry in the selling groceries, but the point is that technology is really transforming lots of industries, and I think our industry won't be any different. If anything, our industry's got a lot of things apologies, it's got a lot of things it can do, because if anything, we're a bit of a dinosaur, really, sort of a bit behind the times. So sorry, apologies. Anyway, so tech, that's something to just pay attention to if you're in the industry, because it is definitely going to change how we deliver services. No, maybe not immediately now, but certainly in the future, and you need to be ahead of the game or aware of what's happening so you can actually implement those changes in your business. Thirdly is, I think, just people. It's not something actually I learnt really, but going to ARMA and going to these conferences reminds me actually of how many great people there are in the sector, from partners to competitors. There's a lot of people, and they spend their hard-earned money, and also their time, going to these events, and I'm just sort of constantly meeting some really cool, really nice people, and there's some great people in this industry that really want to make it work and do the best they can for it. So again, all the people that I met, thanks, for any conversation we may have had, because it was fantastic, and I sort of left a little bit buzzing from it, and it'd be great to see some of the, more of that, not just in terms of events. I'd like to see, us to take it to the next stage, which is more collaboration, more opportunities where we meet, and not just, once a year, or not just periodically at these things. I think there's lots more working together that we could do, but it just made me feel, really good, because there's just some fantastic people in the industry. So look, thanks for listening. That's what I learned from ARMA. 3 things: disappointed with the government and what they're up to, and how they're doing it. Prop tech's definitely going to disrupt the industry, so pay attention and be aware, and you need to consider what's going on in your business. And 3, there's some bloody great people in this industry. People need to reach out more, and let's start having more conversations, and hopefully we can do some great things together. Okay, cool. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you soon.